Here's Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
The tough season so far in 2022 continues to get tougher. The Rams lose 27-17 to the visiting Arizona Cardinals. They fall to 3-6 on the season and just 1-3 inside the NFC West in what came in as a game featuring a couple of backup quarterbacks, both Matthew Stafford and Kyler Murray, both unavailable to play for their respective teams coming into this one. It was John Wolford against Colt McCoy, and thinking that maybe Wolford could bring a little bit of something to this team, a little bit of spark with his legs, just maybe a different look along the way. And, of course, Kyler Murray not being here for Arizona, maybe the Rams had an opportunity to grab a win, something that they have not been able to do for a while now, and maybe start to get on that winning path again. And that is not what happened. Colt McCoy was actually very, very good for the Arizona Cardinals today. Put together a very nice game for himself and his team. 26 out of 37, 238 yards for McCoy. He had the one touchdown, no interceptions along the way. John Wolford, the numbers not good, not bad, kind of right in the middle. 24 out of 36, 212 yards. He did have a touchdown. He also had an interception and a couple of fumbles along the way, including a lost fumble that set up a second Arizona touchdown right before the end of the first half to give them a lead. And what looked like a pretty promising start to the game, the Rams get the ball to open up. They drive down the field, a nice little mix, a lot of runs going along the way. They kick a field goal to go up 3-0, and it did feel like there was a little bit of bounce, that there was a little bit of spark in this team. And after that opening drive, it really felt very, very familiar, the way it had looked under Matthew Stafford, the way it has looked all season long, just an inability to get any sort of offensive rhythm going for the Rams. If you are wanting to talk about what you saw today at SoFi Stadium, 877-710-ESPN. That is the phone number, 877-710-3776. As you heard JB said, the Rams will travel to New Orleans next week. They got the next couple of games coming up on the road. Next week is their first early game of the season. It'll be a 10 a.m. kickoff against the Saints. And really, the Rams season, if it is still hanging by a thread, will be on a thinner thread when they go into New Orleans in a week, and then at Kansas City after that. So the Rams' opportunities to get to that 9 or 10 win threshold that is more than likely going to be the number to get you into the postseason, their opportunities are slipping away very, very quickly. 877-710-ESPN if you'd like to go in there. And, of course, perhaps the biggest story of the day that had nothing to do with the result maybe was Cooper Kupp going down in the second half with an apparent ankle injury. Still waiting to get an official word on what that looks like. Cooper Kupp had statistically the worst day of his NFL career. He had 3 catches for a combined total of -1 yards. He'd had a couple of 0-yard performances in his career, but today going on the wrong side of that, -1 yard for him. And it meant, again, just another microcosm of how they haven't been able to get anything going on this team, even with Cooper Kupp on the days that he's been good. Today, he really was not able to get anything to speak of going offensively. Most of the offense came in the form of a bunch of different people doing a lot of little things. Cam Akers had 6 carries for 22 yards. Darrell Henderson had 6 carries for 21 yards. We did see Kyren Williams get his first offensive action of the season. He had 1 carry for 9 yards along the way. Brandon Powell had 1. Bryce Perkins in limited action had 3 carries along the way. John Wolford also ran 3 times. As far as the receivers go, Tyler Higbee led the team, 8 catches, 73 yards. Allen Robinson had half as many catches with 4 and 44 yards. Kyren Williams, 3 for 30. So not a bad day for the rookie out of Notre Dame once he got out there. Of course, his first time he's been active in quite some time. Let's take our first phone call of the day, 877-710-ESPN. Kirk Morrison will be joining us here in just a little bit. Let's start in Harbor City with Greg. Greg, you're on the Coors Light postgame show. What's going on, Greg?
Hi, guys. I guess it's just going to be an expert to figure it out, but it's like is it just the other teams are more talented in all the positions, or the Rams? It's like the Rams, they just don't have any steam about anything they're doing except, of course, defense, but it's like you could tell after the 3-0, you could just, before Arizona did anything, you could feel that they were more invested in the game than the Rams were. It was like, that's how sports goes, I guess. You win one year, and next year you're down, but what's missing? I mean, it's just like the Lakers, like, at least be competitive so you can still be kind of proud of your team instead of like, man,
yeah,
these
Greg,
guys don't have nothing going on.
Yeah, let me jump in there real quick, Greg. Thanks for the phone call. 877-710-ESPN if you'd like to get in and talk about today's game. I think that's the question that Sean McVay has to be asking himself. I know that's the question that I've been asking myself all season long, and hear you ask it, Greg. It's the question, I think, on the front of all Rams fans at this point is what is missing? Because the offensive line is the easy answer, right? The offensive line today was game number 9 for this team. They've had 9 different starting lineups up front. Those 5 guys, they have not been the same one time from one game to the next. 9 games, 9 different starting lineups along the offensive line. That's a big part of it. Some of the players that they acquired during the offseason, in particular Allen Robinson, have not delivered the impact that I think that they were hoping for. Missing guys like Von Miller and Odell Beckham Jr. have a lot to do with that. And having a quarterback that doesn't have any sort of time, for the first part of the season, it has been Matthew Stafford. Today it was John Wolford. It's really hard to get anything done when you have virtually no time. But I think you bring up a really good question, Greg, and that is, where is that spark, that little life, that little extra something that, the Rams seem to have had in abundance over the last couple of seasons with Sean McVay that just isn't there? I don't know if it's the proverbial Super Bowl hangover that gets thrown around a lot. This is not terribly uncommon to see a team after winning a Super Bowl struggle the way that they have, although this is on the low end of that. In fact, this is actually the worst 9-game start by a defending Super Bowl champ. The previous 4 have all missed the playoffs. The 06 Steelers, the 99 Broncos, 87 New York Giants, and the 82 49ers. But you lose guys, that just that little extra something that you're talking about when it comes to competition, when it comes to finishing games, when it comes to finding a way to get off the field, when it comes to finding a way to get back onto the field. The defense, like you mentioned, Greg, has been really good for this team most of the year, and the Rams had a little bit of life there in the second half, and they couldn't get off the field when they had to have it. Arizona drives down and they score again. They get another touchdown. The game just kind of opens up, and whatever little momentum they had on offense quickly went away because the defense couldn't get off the field when they absolutely had to have it. As promised, joined right now by Kirk Morrison. Kirk, you are a very fast man to get over here as quickly as you did.
I did.
You.
Because there wasn't a lot of people there. People left early. They checked out early because the Rams offense checked out early. So.
Yeah, I could certainly understand why. It was funny. The opening drive of the game was, okay, there's that spark that we're talking about. There's that little life from John Wolford that we're talking about. And then, poof, it really was going to a little bit bounce back briefly in the second half, but they were never able to sustain that life, that spark, that thing that they've been looking for all season long.
Yeah, it was all in the that first drive. We always say, what do you do when the white smoke clears? And the white smoke is the initial part of a game because everybody's still coming out of the tunnel, the introductions and the pyrotechnics. And then you have that opening drive, and everybody's excited because you scripted that first drive. You scripted the first 15 plays or so, and guys, you want to get involved. The Rams actually on that first drive, I believe, had 9 different guys touch the football. Okay, so you had Skoranek, you had Powell, Allen Robinson had 2 catches. Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, Higbee. So I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this looks good. And then Bryce Perkins comes into the game as well. You're like, wow, I haven't seen this type of brand. I said, this is creative from Sean McVay. And you got excited on what you could see. But I thought even still, Sean McVay went conservative on 3rd and 5 down there by the red zone. Decided to say, you know what, I'm just going to hand it off and kick the field goal, where I thought he should have went for it on 3rd down in terms of having John Wolford go look for a receiver. To me, I think one of the biggest crimes is before he got hurt, Cooper Kupp still had -1 yards in the third quarter. Like, that's the Super Bowl 56 MVP, and he was held to -1 yards into the third quarter before he was injured. So, to me, there was a lot outside of that first drive because you mentioned it. They believe they had, 52 yards on that first drive?
Yep.
And then subsequently the rest of the half, in 5 of the next 4 drives in the half, 17 yards combined. It was 4 3-and-outs. And then the ability or the inability to sustain that final drive to keep the ball away from the Cardinals, John Wolford was hit, was fumbled, and that to me was the end of the game.
You mentioned this during the pregame show, and when you said it, I'm like, you know what? I hadn't thought of it like that, but it felt very, prescient because you're talking about both of these teams coming in here with their backup quarterback, and we're excited to see Wolford and the fact that he brings a little bit of – he brings something different. I guess is the best way to talk about it.
Right.
And, obviously Matthew Stafford is your $100 million guy and been around a long time, Super Bowl quarterback, all that things. But Wolford's going to bring you a little something different. But you said – Colt McCoy has been in this league a long time, played a lot of football games. Like he's going to know what's going on out there. 13 years. And he didn't look like a backup quarterback. No. He looked like a guy that's played quarterback in this league for a very long time.
Yeah, I think the broadcast even showed that Sean McVay and Colt McCoy were together in Washington.
Yep.
When McVay was the offensive coordinator and Colt McCoy was the backup to Robert Griffin III. So you know you don't stay in the league for 13 years if you can't do something well. And what I thought Colt McCoy did well was he was the captain of the ship today. And the original captain or the main captain was banged up.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, don't worry, I'll guide the ship back to shore. And he did that. To me, he relied on his superstars. He relied on DeAndre Hopkins. Well, you also needed a Robin. And I thought Rondell Moore was a great Robin. And then also you may need a couple of extra superheroes along the way. And they digged in the fountain of youth and they got some big plays out of J.J. Watt.
Mm-hmm.
And then also that catch by A.J. Green for the touchdown where he just went
Beautiful
up
catch.
And body bagged, David Long Jr. So to me, it was a well put together game plan for Cliff Kingsbury. And I know it felt good for him. But for Sean McVay, to me, I kept thinking this is an offense that's averaging 16 points a game. Where were the points going to come from without Matthew Stafford?
Yep.
So I'm saying the defense can only do so much. And, again, you're searching for answers right now.
All right, so 27-17 is the final score. The Rams have now lost a couple of games in a row. They are 3-6 on the season, 1-3 in the division, heading to New Orleans next. And Cooper Kupp may be hurt and may be missing some time moving forward. We'll give you an update on that as soon as we hear something. So, Kirk, the question is when we come back, where does this leave this team going into New Orleans? Where do you try and find these offensive things that they've been unable to do with all of their best guys, now maybe missing some of those very same guys? That's coming up next on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams radio.
Hey Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got to get the new ESPNLA app. In fact, let's go down to the locker room and get a little help.
What's up, Rams fans? This is Matthew Stafford. React to the Rams on the new ESPNLA app.
This is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen to all your Rams talk on the ESPNLA app.
You are just one tap away from Rams All Access. Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play.
Oh, no.
27-17 is the final score from SoFi Stadium. The Cardinals beat the Rams. The Rams are 3-6. Up next, the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans next week. Kickoff of that one coming up at 10 a.m. And more of your phone calls coming up in just a couple of minutes here, 877-710-ESPN. But, Kirk, they've played 9 games.
Yeah.
And they've won 3 of them and lost 6. So, obviously, the season isn't going the way that anybody would have anticipated or liked. However, what's surprising to me, not just necessarily the results, but it's the how we got here. Because over 9 games, that's a couple of months' worth of NFL football. You haven't seen even flashes or glimpses of the team that we saw a year ago, even for a quarter or a half, and certainly not for an entire game. There hasn't been that moment, hey, they're getting better. Hey, they're starting to turn the corner. They're able to move. They're able to do this where they weren't able to do it previously. It seems like it's stuck in this loop of the same result the same way week after week after week.
Yeah, it just seems like each week is something new. It's something that this team is Achilles' heel. Number one, for real, it's their offensive line is not the same offensive line that they finished last year with.
No.
This isn't the Super Bowl offensive line that they had. So I think a lot of that has to do with the inability to stay consistent in not only running the football but blocking for the quarterback. That's number one. I think number two, we really have to look at the receiving core of what it started out like last year, how important guys like Robert Woods were, how important Van Jefferson was, how important Cooper Kupp was, and the unity and the chemistry that they had. And the Rams, obviously they traded away Robert Woods at the end of the season. I get that. And they went for Odell Beckham last year. I get it. But I think it's also to a point where you look at this Rams team, the way it's constructed currently, they don't have that continuity with their playmaking group. Allen Robinson has been a failure to this point, a major failure. Now, I know he had a couple of plays today, but he's been a major failure for the kind of money they went out and the kind of production that they had got.
A single game yet.
Well, I could say that Robert Woods made an impact. I can say that Odell Beckham made an impact.
For sure.
Allen Robinson, no pun intended, is just a just a guy.
Yeah.
Okay? Like sometimes you don't know if he's on the field or not. Cooper Kupp, it's a noticeable difference when he's not on the field. I don't know where the Rams' offense goes from here. I literally don't know because now we don't know.
You have Matthew Stafford potentially.
Cooper Kupp.
You might not have Cooper Kupp. You have a running back group that no one has really separated themselves, and they've all gotten kind of a half portion, or at best, maybe even less than a half portion at this point. And the results continue to be somewhere around 13 to 17 points a game. And there just seems to be no spark going on right now. Let's try another phone call. 877-710-ESPN. Let's go to Mike in Los Angeles. Mike, you're on with Travis and Kirk on the Coors Light postgame show. What's up?
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Mike, how I look at this is that our Ram team talent is not good enough. Our talent does not make this thing work for us to win anymore. We need better players. Maybe the coaching needs to think about all this. And I'm just so frustrated as a fan. I've been a season ticket holder when they were in Anaheim. Now, I don't understand why they can't do what they do.
Well, Kirk,
I don't know.
Appreciate the phone call, Mike. Thank you. There's obviously this is a very different team than it was a year ago.
Yes,
The main pieces, or I shouldn't say the main, that might be the wrong word, but
no, that's the right word.
The flashy pieces, the Stafford,
that's the right
Kupp,
word. The main
Donald,
pieces,
those guys are
right.
back. You had a Bobby Wagner, you had an Allen Robinson, so there's a lot of sizzle there. But when you get beyond that group of people, with no Odell, with no Von Miller, with no Andrew Whitworth, with Austin Corbett leaving, Darius Williams, these are all players that are starting on other NFL teams or into retirement at this point. There was a drop-off in talent this year, and especially off of that top line. The top line talent is still there, but it's hard to get those guys going when nothing else is working.
Yeah, it's hard to now lean on other guys. And I've said this before. This is what the hard part about winning a championship is in professional sports. And you think back to the Lakers and having a chance to three-peat. You think about the Bulls, and they're back to they had 2 3-peats. Think about professional sports in general. It is difficult to repeat as a champion because guys, obviously, number one, they want to be rewarded for their play. Mm-hmm. And so you get guys who get some contracts. They always say, hey, guys who get big and fat and happy. and you kind of lose that energy. You lose that drive. You lose that hunger because you expect to go back out and do it again. I think right now you're seeing it with the Warriors. They won the championship last year. They're off to a slow start as well. It is hard to continue to play at that high level. And I'm looking at the Rams, and I've said this before in the pregame show. They're not having fun.
Doesn't look like it.
They're not having fun. I haven't seen the defense excited and making plays and creating turnovers. They didn't create a turnover today that you were excited about, right? Did they create something that you said, wow, that was a memorable play? No, I didn't see that today. Offensively, I haven't seen that touchdown where everybody comes into the end zone and congratulate. It's just when they score, it's like, whew, wow. More so than, yeah, we did
Let's
that.
go.
Yes.
Yeah. So here's a question I have for you when we come back. We'll take more of your phone calls, too. 877-710-ESPN. How do you create a spark when there is no spark in the building? How do you create a spark when you're not scoring points, when you need to get it from the defense or the offense, and it's not there? Where do you find it out of thin air? That's coming up next. Plus, we'll hear from the head coach, Sean McVay. It's all coming up on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams radio.
Hey, Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got to get the new ESPNLA app. In fact, let's go down to the locker room and get a little help.
What's up, Rams fans? This is Matthew Stafford. React to the Rams on the new ESPNLA app.
This is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen to all your Rams talk on the ESPNLA app.
You are just one tap away from Rams All Access. Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play.
Game show live at Hollywood Park Casino. Hollywood Park Casino. Elevate your game.
Once again, here's Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
27-17, the final score from SoFi Stadium. The Arizona Cardinals beat the Rams, a 10-point win for the Cardinals. And, Kirk, it really wasn't that close. The Rams got a touchdown late. Van Jefferson got into the end zone with just a couple of seconds left in that one. This game was decided about halfway through the fourth quarter. It was kind of a wrap at that point. And where do you go from here? I think this is one of the big questions that Sean McVay is going to have to answer. Before we hear from him, let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.
KSPN AM 710 Los Angeles. KRDC AM 1110 Pasadena, Los Angeles. Let's go Rams.
So, Kirk, how do you create urgency? How do you create spark? How do you create that thing that isn't there that's so important for football? Because obviously the direness of the situation, that you look at the playoff picture right now and the Rams are nowhere near it. I mean, just here's some teams for you. The Commanders, the Packers, the Falcons, the Cardinals, and the Lions. Those are all teams that are not in the playoffs but are actually in a better position than the LA Rams as we sit here through the first 10 weeks of the season. So the Rams have to get very, very lucky and completely change the way that they've been playing. But how do you find a spark when the spark hasn't been there all season long?
You got to look deep down and say how much you love football. That's what it's all about. Well, how do you want to be remembered season after your Super Bowl season? Is the Rams were a one-hit wonder and they didn't even make the playoffs? We've seen what it looks like in the NFL about the Super Bowl hangover, and that hangover is still real right now in Los Angeles. Or you say they just they caught fire, they got hot, and they made the plays down the stretch last year that won them football games. Mm-hmm. To me, I look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today, and they look like a much different team after they've already beaten the Rams last week. And that should have been the Rams. They had that game taken away from them last week, and so now you find a spark by finding the guys who want to be there, right? I mean, this has been a season in which, like I mentioned, a lot of guys got paid, and then you had Cam Akers who had his situation with the Rams. You had an offensive line that's just been a rotating, revolving door, and so to me, I don't know where to start. That's the hardest thing is that I really wish I had an answer.
Without question.
I don't have it because you would say, okay, well, what about the trade deadline? Okay, we can go make it. Well, the trade deadline is over, Travis. You can't go out and go grab a street free agent to come in and play because it's
not a difference maker.
Not a difference maker. So it has to come from within. And I'm saying I'm putting the pressure now on the defense, and it's unwarranted pressure, but that's the only thing that I think that can help the offense, right? And I've seen it before with the Baltimore Ravens defense. I've seen it before with the Chicago Bears defense. There's been defenses that feel – I remember the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Warren Sapp and John Lynch and Derek Brooks. They couldn't score offensively for parts of the season. Mm-hmm. And the defense said, don't worry, we got you. And that may be what can ignite the offense to give them more opportunities until they find their rhythm. Because right now there is no rhythm on the running back spot. There is no rhythm on the offensive line. And in the wide receiving spot, I mean, no Cooper Kupp, you're really going to find out who wants to play football now. Who's going to be a guy? Who's going to be Cooper Kupp right now? And just reading the tea leaves, right? I don't know what Sean McVay is going to say yet, but a lot of the reports are some people saying it didn't look good in terms of the ankle injury in the locker room. We just always saw the pictures. We saw the video. If they don't have Cooper Kupp, you tell me what this offense looks like.
Well, that's the thing. That you can be optimistic and say, well, you have an opportunity for Allen Robinson to step up or Tyler Higbee or Cam Akers, but through 9 games, none of those things have really happened. So to think that all of a sudden they're going to happen without your best offensive player there seems like there's optimism and then there's a sense of delusion at some point, and it's trending certainly closer towards that. Let's try another phone call here. Let's go to Mason is up next. Mason, you're on the Coors Light postgame show. What's going on?
Hey, Jason. Hey, guys. How are you?
What's up?
I'm glad somebody finally saying something about the defense because we all know the offense is struggling. We all know everybody's hurt, and that's just the way it is. But the defense has not done anything to really help get anything going. It's, that bend, don't break mentality, but we're bending, and then they eventually break. No turnovers, no interceptions, no touchdowns. It's flat. They're as flat as the offense. And I know they're tired, and I know they're out there all the time, but we got to no blitzing, no nothing.
Breaking up a little bit there, Jason. Let me hop in on you real quick. Kirk, I want you to answer that question because we've been talking about the offense so much and the defense has had so much on their plate. Let's come back and hear what you have to say about that. Plus, we're going to hear from Sean McVay. And we'll get into our Verizon Player of the Game as well. It's all straight ahead on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.
Hey, Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got room and get a little help.
What's up, Rams fans? This is Matthew Stafford. React to the Rams on the new ESPNLA app.
This is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen to all your Rams talk on the ESPNLA app.
You are just one tap away from Rams All Access. Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play.
Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
27-17, the final score from SoFi. The Cardinals improved to 4-6. They pick up their first divisional win of the season. The Rams fall to 3-6. They are 1-3 in the NFC West right now. It brings us to our player of the game, brought to you by Verizon, the network America relies on. I want to give it to our pal Ron Mitchell because I've been telling you to give it to him for a very long time.
Yes.
Today might be the day, too, because certainly nobody on the Rams side really had a day that kind of pops out at you. Is it Colt McCoy for coming off the bench and being ready to go? Was he the player of the game, you think?
Yeah, I thought it was Colt McCoy because you mentioned it. He was the backup quarterback that came in and kept things afloat. Was banged up, was injured. Who would have thought we would have saw Trace McSorley take snaps today, the third quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. But it was Colt McCoy. I thought he did an outstanding job throughout the day. He kept the chains moving when needed, but he got them in and out of the offense. To me, I think what the best part about it for me was the way that he took the underneath throws, right, where he took throws to DeAndre Hopkins on the outside because Jalen Ramsey was playing 10 yards off. And so it may not be the big play, but he didn't need the big play. They nickel and dimed and kind of just moved the ball methodically. And they had a couple drives, and he just never seemed flustered.
No,
right?
he
just
didn't.
never seemed flustered at all. And I think that's part of what their offense. Look, he doesn't have the ability of Kyler Murray, but the ability to run the offense is what he did have. And he had Rondell Moore who made plays. He had, I mentioned, DeAndre Hopkins. And you still had other players. Look, remember, he lost Zach Ertz early in his football game, his tight end. Yeah, I mean, my fantasy football team is hurt because of Ertz not being out there. I'm just keeping it all the way real with you. But to me, it did show that when you have faith in what you do and then had the running game in spurts. It wasn't consistent throughout, but it was in spurts. And in the second half, it really took over. And the Rams really didn't have an answer. I even hate to say this because he's such a great player, but I didn't call Aaron Donald's name today.
No, he didn't seem like he had a huge
They double team. I saw that.
They're double teaming him crazy. I want to stick with the quarterback Colt McCoy for a second in comparison to John Wolford. Both of these guys backup quarterbacks in the league at this point in their career, but in very different stages. Colt McCoy's been a starter in the league. Colt McCoy's been around for more than a decade and played a lot of NFL football. You were talking about how he was taking what was underneath. When it was available, he would take it, and they'd keep moving. The first down, keep the chains moving, live to play the next play. Tell me if I'm wrong here, Kirk. You and I did not spend as much time during the game together as we typically do, but it seemed to me that Wolford was waiting that extra thing, like he didn't quite trust what it was he was seeing, and he was waiting for it to come, and by the time he decided it was time to go, it was too late.
I mentioned this watching the game. There was an instance where Cooper Kupp ran an in route, and John Wolford waited for Kupp to get out of the break and then release the football, and it turned what should have been an easy catch and get down. It turned into a contested catch and ended up going incomplete. Whereas that Matthew Stafford throws that ball before Cooper Kupp's out of the break. Cooper Kupp isn't even throttling down to cut to the inside. That ball's already thrown to where when he turns around, that ball is right there on his hands. And that's just the difference between John Wolford and Matthew Stafford. We understand there's going to be a difference. I think the bigger thing is for me, and I'll always go to what his offensive coordinator, formerly Kevin O'Connell, said that, hey, if he's 6'3", 6'4", he's probably a first, second round quarterback. But then you realize he's about 6 foot, and how many passes did you see batted today?
Tipped balls.
Tipped balls.
Too.
And just the balls that sailed high because he's got to get a little more arc on it. I mean, that's how the interception happened. You saw another pass to Skoranek that hit off the hands.
There was one up to Skoranek off the hands. There was one and maybe two. I think they were both to Higbee that were a little bit behind him too. Yeah. That if it's hitting in stride, maybe he gets that corner. Maybe they cut a little bit of chunk play. Maybe it goes in a little bit of a different direction. Sean McVay has a 3-6 football team. He spoke with J.B. Long and Maurice Jones-Drew after the game.
Back at SoFi Stadium following an Arizona win over the Los Angeles Rams, 27-17. The final. Let's go into the Rams locker room and check in with the head coach, Sean McVay. Sean, your reaction to what you saw here today?
Yeah, it's tough, because there was opportunities to get back in the game, and we just didn't make enough plays, and that's what it's about. I mean, we've got to – I'm always going to be somebody that wants to try to put our guys in the right spots, but I also want to see somebody take a chokehold of some of these opportunities and be able to make a play when there's plays to be made and, us play complementary football. I want to see us when we do cut it to a possession game, be able to play complementary football, do things that I believe that we're capable of. It's not for lack of hard work during the week. But it's not coming together on the during the games, and those are the things that we just have to keep figuring it out. And we're going to keep searching, but then there are some opportunities where you also want to see some guys that I don't think it's too much to ask to make plays when they're there to be made, and that's what this game becomes about.
Hey, Coach, a lot of injuries are starting to pile up for you. How do you guys continue to strive to get back on track and get going?
They've been piling up, Mo. I mean, this has been consistent from week one. Everybody deals with it, but we're getting it in a lot of different spots, and it's we're being tested right now. That's for sure. And it's not going to. I know this. It's not going to break me. It's not going to break our guys. We've just got to be able to continue to freaking figure out how to get better results. There's just a lot of things that we got to be able to look inward about. But it does come down to being able to throw and catch, block and tackle, be able to execute, and then capitalize on the opportunities when they're there to be had. And we just haven't done good enough with that, and that's why we are where we're at.
Do we know how severe it is on the Cooper Kupp front?
I'm not sure yet.
All right. Hope
Okay.
for the best. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, guys.
All right. 27-17, the final from SoFi Stadium.
All right, that's JB and Mo with Coach McVay after the game. And obviously, the Cooper Kupp thing, everybody's holding their breath, hoping for the best. But, he also said afterwards that it didn't look good, it didn't sound good. So there is a very real possibility that complimentary football that he's talking about, that somebody taking advantage of the opportunities that are available to them in a season like this, that person may not be Cooper Kupp moving forward. We're waiting to see what they say about his ankle.
Yeah, I mean, that could be your MVP. That's the all-pro wide receiver of a year ago. And if he's not available, I mean, you're asking a lot from some guys. And, again, Tutu Atwell is a second-round pick. It's supposed to be an impact player you drafted in 2021 who was inactive today.
Yeah.
So this is your team for 2022. This is what you have to work with. This is the recipe, the ingredients. And I don't know if the Rams even have enough to even get over 500. I mean, right now they're 3 games under. They've got to win some games in a row, and I look at their schedule upcoming. Kansas City's still on that schedule. The Packers, they won a game today, and they were 3-6. Obviously 2 games against Seattle. It's just going to be tough sledding for the Rams when you look at their schedule upcoming.
I want to go back to what Sean McVay said there. He mentioned it a couple of different times that some players taking advantage of the opportunities that are available to them. Am I reading too much into this, Kirk? Because when I hear that, and I'm just trying to figure out what that means exactly, when I hear somebody's not taking advantage of the opportunities that are being presented, meaning there are opportunities for success. We're just not cashing them in. As we're watching them, we're seeing a bunch of 3-and-outs. We're seeing a football team that's not able to move the ball. But is Sean McVay seeing opportunities that are there that are just not being executed properly?
I want to go look at the tape. I want to see what's breaking down. Is it route running? Is it the allowing guys to, penetrate in the run game? I mean, it's, you've seen so much. I mean, that first drive was so promising, but once that first drive was over with and the Arizona Cardinals were able to calm down and play their defense and stay within the scheme of who they are, you saw some guys make plays. I mean, their guys made plays. Zaven Collins, Isaiah Simmons, even the rookie, Myjai Sanders, 41. He had a hell of a game. A couple sacks, forced fumbles, and all of that. And the Rams, to me, just guys who you expect to make the plays or have those opportunities, they just have not. I mean, you can't release anybody else. You can't bring anybody else in. This is who you are. And so I think you'll learn a lot about some guys. Maybe last year things came pretty easy for the Rams. Von Miller was there making plays. There is no Von Miller. He's not walking through that door. Odell Beckham's not walking through that door. So who can be a guy that can step up when there are opportunities in front of him?
One of those guys that maybe will get some opportunities. We'll see what happens with Matthew Stafford moving forward. But we only saw a little bit of Bryce Perkins. I want to talk about him when we come back. That's coming up next on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.
Hey, Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got to get the new ESPNLA app. In fact, let's go down to the locker room and get a little help.
What's up, Rams fans? This is Matthew Stafford. React to the Rams on the new ESPNLA app.
This is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen to all your Rams talk on the ESPNLA app.
You are just one tap away from Rams All Access. Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play.
Post-game show.
Here's Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
27-17 is the final from SoFi Stadium. The Rams lose to the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals improve to 4-6 on the year. The Rams fall to 3-6. Up next for the Rams, an early 10 a.m. kickoff for them in New Orleans against the Saints next week. We're obviously going to wait to see when Matthew Stafford is available to come back, hopefully sooner than later, and they get him back. But what did you think of the way that they used Bryce Perkins today? Because John Wolford played the vast majority of the game. Perkins only attempted one pass. He only ran the ball 3 times along the way. He did have a nice little 8-yard run in there. But it seemed like they had an idea of how they wanted to use him, but they didn't use it very often.
Yeah, it was weird watching it because I thought that it was a good creative way to get another part of the running game going, right? But we all know that when Bryce Perkins came in the game, it was for a run. He wasn't going to throw the ball. Right. So I think the Arizona Cardinals realized that, and they geared up for the run later on. But there were some plays where it was like a college-style offense, right? They had the jet sweep or the jet motion with Brandon Powell. You hand it out there. You get the defense going one way. So I thought you had some different aspects of the running game, but the Rams got away from it. Or they kept putting Bryce Perkins in it on 3rd and 14, like bad down and distances. Yeah, you're going to go all in. Just don't do it and show it and not go back to it.
I thought the same thing, Kirk. I thought that the opportunities he did get, he was given,
right,
the chances of success were very modest. That these were not, we're going to give you a series or even a couple of plays in a row. These were 3rd and long situations where, like to your point, he's not going to drop back and look down the field and throw the ball, that he's going to run, that they put him in a spot where his success was going to be fairly limited.
Yeah, I think it was just situations where, to me, this was his first action of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was tough for him to go out there and try to execute, especially in a situation where the Cardinals were begging you to throw the football, begging you, and you still run it. And it was just running to a brick wall. J.J. Watt was doing a good job of standing guys up, and then against with an offensive line, it's still in transition. I don't know what the Rams' best run play is too. So before it was a stretch game, saw a couple cutbacks. I mean, Darrell Henderson scored a touchdown, but it was the cutback game was there. Just they got away from the run.
I was going to say the running game was actually halfway decent through the early part of the game, and then they just stopped doing it. Another one of those questions that I think Sean McVay is going to get quite a bit throughout the course of the week. Let's try another phone call here. Let's go to Santa Ana and Anthony. Anthony, you're on with Travis and Kirk on the Coors Light postgame show. What's going on? Anthony.
How you doing, Travis?
All right. What's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear.
Up, buddy?
Hey, last week McVay said that changes were going to be made. What changes were made? I mean, he didn't do anything as far as I know, correct? Or did I miss something?
Well, I think the big change was that he didn't have his quarterback. Let's be real. So I think going into this week, he had a game plan, and then on Tuesday he found out that Matthew Stafford was entering the concussion protocol. So now all of a sudden the game plan that he probably had for Matthew Stafford was thrown out of the window, and now enter John Wolford and Bryce Perkins on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to try to develop a game plan that gives them some success, gives them an ability to go out there and win the football game. I saw pieces of it, but at the end of the day, they just ran out of it.
Yeah, it's interesting, Kirk, to listen to the question about it. Like, what did he do differently? And, Anthony, thank you for the call. There isn't going to be that moment where they come out and there's a whole new package and it looks totally different, and all of a sudden they're ripping off 15 yards of play. It's not happening. This is who you have. This is what you're going to deal with from now until the end of the season. And what you need to do is find a way to play what you are. To Sean, I'll quote Sean McVay. Take advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves. Not that every play is designed to go for 50 yards, but, hey, if we got a chance to hit one for 7 or 8, let's hit it for 7 or 8. If we're going to do that, then let's make sure that we're going to do that as opposed to trying to reinvent the wheel all of a sudden. That's not going to happen.
No, it's not. You can't try to go out and we're going to switch up who we are. I mean, he did go back into some situations where he was lining up under center, had some fullback situations with Ben Skoranek. But, again, it's just too inconsistent. Far too inconsistent.
All right, coming up next on 7:10 a.m., the pregame show for the Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets. If you'd like to continue to talk about the Rams, more postgame coverage will continue on 93.1 Jack FM. That's coming up on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.
Hey, Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got to get the new ESPNLA app. In fact, let's go down to the locker room and get a little help.
What's up, Rams fans? This is Matthew Stafford. React to the Rams on the new ESPNLA app.
This is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen to all your Rams talk on the ESPNLA app.
You are just one tap away from Rams All Access. Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play.
ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.
Coors Light, keeping Southern California chill
all season long.
All the highlights, all the numbers. Coach McVay's press conference.
Hi, this is Coach Sean McVay.
The Coors Light postgame show kicks off.
Whose house? Rams house.
This is the Coors Light postgame show, live at Hollywood Park Casino. Hollywood Park Casino. Elevate your game.
Now,
here's Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
27-17, the final score. The Rams lose to the Arizona Cardinals. Up next, the New Orleans Saints kick off at 10 a.m. a week from today in New Orleans. And Kirk, the Saints are having a terrible season as well. They're a 3-7 team. But the Rams are on the road. They got Kansas City the week after that. And all of a sudden, finding wins on this schedule is becoming a bigger and bigger challenge week to week, because this was the opportunity. This was Arizona with a backup quarterback, the team that you've had a real amount of dominance over, and
Right.
this one was very heavily tilted towards Arizona today.
In a much improved NFC.
Yes.
Right? That's the bigger part that you're talking about, is that where will the wins come in an NFC that is looking to be a lot different. It's turned upside down, right? It's because the Rams and Packers, the teams who are at the top, are now turned around at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Rams don't have any room for error in terms of getting to the playoffs as a wild card. They've got to win their division. So they have to have a narrow focus, because their team is not who they were a year ago. So it's crazy to see that this thing has fallen so far just from February.
And they're going to have to get some help in the division as well,
Right.
because, like you said, the wild card path really is non-existent at this point. And you've already played Arizona twice. You split. You've played San Francisco twice. You lost both of them. And you've got division-leading Seattle as your remaining two division games. So, cross your fingers and hope that you get some help from some other places, because the path to just win the rest of your games is unlikely, and even that might not be good enough at this point. Let's try another phone call here. If you'd like to get in and talk about today's game against the Cards, 877-710-ESPN is the number to do that. Let's go to Chris in Los Angeles. Chris, you're on with Travis and Kirk on the Coors Light postgame show. What's going on?
Hey, guys. I don't want to keep calling and discussing McVay, and like you guys said last week, which I think was right on, his lack of creativity. But I started thinking about it. He and Kingsbury didn't have their starting quarterback, and it seemed like, Kingsbury called a better game than McVay did. But the thing that I want to really say is McVay was talking about opportunities for other players, and I think what he's talking about is that they are looking at film, and they're seeing people missing tackles, missing blocks. And there's one play that I remember today, because I was at the game, and it was in the second half. Arizona had the ball on the 40-yard line. The Rams had just got a sack, which made like 3rd and 15, 3rd and 17. They threw a swing pass on 3rd down. Donald Long missed the tackle. The receiver runs, gets 2 yards short of the first down. They go for 2, and they get the 4th and 2, and they end up scoring a touchdown. If he makes the tackle, they punt. So I think it's things like that the coaches look at, and they see that a game could be swayed one way or another on a big play just by someone executing and not letting them get away and not executing. So I think it's a lot of little things.
I remember that. I remember that sequence too. The one he was talking about. It was actually 3rd and 15, and the Cardinals actually were about to run out of time and have a delay of game.
Right.
And so they called timeout early in the 3rd quarter. And I said, wow, they gave up 5 yards on a 3rd and 15. I would have said, you know what? Hey, let's just
back it up.
Yeah, let's back it up and just, our defense is playing well, move forward. But they called timeout, and they came back out. It was a throw to Rondale Moore, and David Long Jr. missed the tackle. And when he missed the tackle, he got enough yards in order to make it a 4th down and manageable. The Cardinals were 3 of 3 on 4th down today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they were 100% on 4th down, and that's one of the reasons why was because the Rams had missed tackles. And they went on, I think, scored a touchdown on that drive. So it's little plays that at the time you don't look at them and you say, oh, that's a huge play, but it ended up being a huge play because he kept the drive alive.
Well, you go back to last week against Tampa. It was very obvious the big plays in that game where, Cooper Kupp sliding and then them deciding on 3rd and 5 to just kind of, run it into the line and punt it away, and then you had a couple of big plays on the defense. This was not one of those days. This was a missed tackle here, a missed assignment here, a bad throw, a turnover. It was just a lot of different things added up to what you had, which was it was a 27-10 game right up until the end. The Rams get a touchdown, more or less, as time is expiring to make it 27-17. I want to go back to something else that he said too, Kirk, about how he felt that Cliff Kingsbury called a better game than Sean McVay did today, and I think I would agree with that generally speaking, but it's also an easier game to call when you have a quarterback with the experience of a guy like Colt McCoy, when you have an offensive line that is at least functioning in a typical way. Not that Arizona doesn't have the problems they do.
They were without DJ Humphries. They were without their starting center, Rodney Hudson. They're without a lot of guys, too.
Do you think that he called a better game than Sean McVay?
I think so. He did.
Yeah.
Because, or actually, I think it was just an experience of his quarterback. A new term that I found out a couple weeks back, UAR. Underneath available receivers. College coach gave me that one, so I got to give him a shout out a little later. But underneath available receivers is another. He said it just sounds like a better word for check down.
Yeah.
Right. When you hear check down, it's a negative connotation.
Right.
It's like, he's like
not pushing the ball down the field.
But underneath available receivers sounds like, oh, he's available. I'm going to hit that. That's all that I thought Colt McCoy do. There was no big plays down the field. Everything was boom, short, high percentage,
but
catch
on the
and
money.
run, but on the money.
Yeah.
And the Rams kept looking down the field and not staying focused on the underneath receivers that were there. If they want to play off, hey, throw it down, check it down. They didn't do that.
No, they didn't. And really, they didn't get much going on offense at all. And at the risk of going over it again, Kirk, but this was a team that has been pretty lifeless on offense for most of the season. They come out in the opening drive again and have an impressive drive. It ends in a field goal instead of a touchdown, but you put points on the board right out of the gate, and you're thinking, okay, John Wolford's off. And there was that moment he jumps up and throws the first down signal, and there's a little bit of life. And then here comes drives number 2, more or less through the rest of the game, and it was the same, a lot of passing, not enough running, and not nearly as many first downs as you would like, and just some very quick drives putting your defense right back out on the field. It felt very Groundhog Day again today.
Yeah, I mean, the defense, I'm not going to say they weren't at fault at all, but to me, they played well enough for the most part of this game. This game was played in the teens. The Rams just can't score offensively, and so the plays for the defense gets magnified. Right, it gets magnified when they miss a tackle on 3rd down, like he's saying, oh, the Rams defense got to make the play on 3rd down. Okay, yeah, but when their offense is not doing things on their drives, you got to look at the offense too. There was that first half started off great in the first drive, and then they didn't do anything the rest of the half besides fumble and give the ball back to Arizona. That's where I thought the game was lost at. It was that fumble by John Wolford with under 2 minutes to go, and Sean McVay decided, you know what, I want to be aggressive and try to get points before the half. And I said, hey, why not just regroup? I know Arizona gets the ball to start the second half, but there's no way I want to give them any kind of opportunity. Well, they gave them opportunity, and the score, instead of being 10-3 at half, ended up being 17-3.
Nice catch by A.J. Green on that touchdown right before the end of the first half as well. Coming up next, we're going to take a look around the rest of the league here on Week 10. That's coming up on the Coors Light postgame show on 710 ESPN.
Hey, Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got to get the new ESPNLA app. In fact, let's go down to the locker room and get a little help.
What's up, Rams fans? This is Matthew Stafford. React to the Rams on the new ESPNLA app.
This is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen to all your Rams talk on the ESPNLA app.
You are just one tap away from Rams All Access. Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play.
A post-game show.
Coors Light.
Keeping Southern California chill all season long.
The Coors Light postgame show.
Here's Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
Rams lose by 10 to the Arizona Cardinals at SoFi Stadium today. 27-17 is the final score. Right now, let's take a look around the rest of the league, presented by Morongo Casino. Morongo Casino Resort and Spa, good times. Kirk, one of the classic wild NFL games that you're going to see in quite some time. The Buffalo Bills and Minnesota Vikings, it ends up going into overtime. Josh Allen throws an interception as they're getting ready to kick a game-winning field goal potentially. They take a shot at the end zone. It's intercepted. That's after a fumble in his own end zone that gets picked up. It's just an absolutely wild game that ends with the Vikings winning 33-30. Don't look now. The Vikings are 8-1, Kirk.
Yes, I can't believe it. It's Kevin O'Connell, former Rams offensive coordinator, now goes to Minnesota and has literally flipped that team. This is a team in Minnesota that didn't make the playoffs a year ago, and they had the same head coach in Mike Zimmer to a point where they were like, they just needed a new voice. It's not like Kevin O'Connell came in and brought in all these new players. It's a majority of the same players, but I think he's brought in an attitude. He's brought in a culture in which Sean McVay has facilitated here in Los Angeles, and now he brings it over there, and they're hungry. Okay, they're a hungry bunch over there. Same thing with the Chargers. They're a hungry bunch as well, Brandon Staley. So you're seeing the coaches from the Sean McVay coaching tree are having success at other places. And why is that? Because they know what the formula looks like. But what happens when you do have success? That's what I want to see now, because the Rams have now had success. They're struggling, but everyone else is still trying to get to that promised land like the Rams got to last year, but everyone else is succeeding. Everybody else is still taking off.
How much do you think that the Rams' struggles this year have to do with the constant outflow of coaching talent? That Sean McVay already has a tree that you'd put up against Bill Belichick or Bill Walsh or Mike Holmgren or any of these other guys that have been developing trees for years and decades, and here's Sean McVay still on the plus side of 40 by a mile, and he's got his own tree. That has to have had some effect on where the Rams find themselves this year.
Yes, it's a lot. I think because of the voices in your head, right? That you always need some. Sean McVay can only coach so much individual players, but the offensive assistants, defensive assistants are guys who were the coaches who are always in your head, because they're talking to you to not only motivate you, but I don't know if you got a chance to watch Hard Knocks, and I know I'm going to watch it again this week with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yep.
But Sean McVay has an overall message, or the head coach has an overall message, and it's up to the assistants to get that message into the coaches. So on last week's episode of Hard Knocks, and that's why I like watching it, because it takes me back to my playing days. And you get what a coach says, hey, man, we got to tell our guys, hey, we got to win. And this is what they said, too. I'm going to be honest with you. We have to win 2 of our next 3 games to have a shot at our division.
Yeah.
They lost against Seattle. They now have beaten the Rams. And now San Francisco is their next opponent, the Cardinals, next Monday night
in Mexico City.
And the coaches, all the coaches, they show the clips of all the coaches preaching what the head coach is saying. That's where those are the ones who are in your ear. Those are the ones who you listen to every single day, because they're the ones in the meeting room with you. Sean McVay has to be the head coach. And you've lost a lot of those voices in the locker room. You've lost E.J. Evero, who's the defensive coordinator in Denver. Okay, he was with the Rams. So there's a lot of coaches that aren't here anymore, that were voices that kept guys calm in that locker room.
So the Chargers and the 49ers are in the Sunday night game right now. The Chargers have the early lead on that one, 7-3. If the Niners can flip that one around and get a win today at 5-4, they'd only be a half game back. The Seattle Seahawks, who lost today in Germany to Tampa. The Seahawks are now 6-4. Tampa's at 5-5. Here we are. We're getting roughly the halfway point. If you had to place a bet on who wins this division, is it the 49ers? Or you still like Seattle?
Wow. I'm gonna go with San Francisco. I think that they still, and they have 2 more games against the Seahawks, I believe, as well. Trust me, I think Seattle's going to be there in it. They're going to be there in it. I think they make the playoffs. I do believe that. I think they've played well enough in the first half with an identity, and they have some playmakers. we talk about Seattle, and you forget, like, DK Metcalf is a problem.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett is a problem. Oh, by the way, Noah Fant is one of the good young tight ends in this league, and they got a young, hungry defense. Hungry. So, to me, that's a good recipe, honestly, for a ton of success for this team to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and then you look at some of the other games that are taking place today. The Dolphins win again over Cleveland, 39-17. The Jets on a bye this weekend as well. But don't look now, Kirk. The team that we saw on opening night here at SoFi and the Buffalo Bills were like, okay, that team's going to be a problem.
Yes.
They're in third place in their own division.
Yeah.
They're behind the Jets. They're behind the Miami Dolphins. They've lost to both the Jets and the Miami Dolphins already this season. And you start to look at that AFC East, and it probably will get all three of those teams in the playoffs. New England's still on the right side of 500. They're in last place in that division. But you look at what the Dolphins did today, and with Tua Tagovailoa playing, they have not lost a game all season long.
They're a problem. I love it. I really do. Because I know they're a really, really good football team. And you're seeing it now. Without Tua, you mentioned that without Tua, they struggled. They lost those 3 games.
Yep.
With Tua, Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in the NFL. It's not a hot take. That's real. The numbers tell me that. They bear. I don't know, Justin Jefferson. Yes, Justin Jefferson is good. But that dude, Tyreek Hill, puts the fear of God in me, okay, when he's on the field, because he is just on a different kind of speed.
He can score from wherever he is on the field.
Anywhere. I just feel like Kansas City is Kansas City. They're going to be in it no matter what. But I love the new blood, though, in both conferences. Looking at Miami and Baltimore, the New York Jets, the Buffalo Bills, people were already booking flights to Arizona after week 1. And now it's not so fast, my friend. Pump those brakes a little bit. Pump those brakes.
No, it's very different. And all of a sudden, Kansas City, like you mentioned, and, Baltimore, as you mentioned as well, there are a lot of very good teams in this year that weren't just the obvious ones, and they start to show up about right now. That November, you start to get a little bit of that separation. Unfortunately, this is something that we did know back in September. The Raiders go down again today. They lose to Jeff Saturday and the Colts, making his head coaching debut. The Colts get him 25-20. The Raiders are 2-7 and have lost 8 consecutive one-score games, Kirk. They just cannot get on the right side of that.
Yeah, they can't. It's unfortunate because Josh McDaniels came into a situation where a team had made the playoffs a year prior, okay? He has completely dismantled that team. You tell me, how does a team go from making the playoffs and in less than a season, less than half a season, really, about a half a season, this Raiders football team, they look pathetic.
They look like the worst team in the league all of a sudden.
And you let the Colts and Jeff Saturday beat you at home? Oh, come on now. Come on now. In a division which you came in and you were hyped up about, a lot of the players are just...
Like you said, this is a playoff team from a year ago, and now they are anything but that. We're going to hear from the head coach of the Rams, Sean McVay. That's when we come back on the Coors Light postgame show on 710 ESPN.
Mom is Harrison.
27-17, the final score from SoFi. The Cardinals beat the Rams. Coming into this season, Sean McVay had never been under 500 as a head coach in this league. That changed on opening night against the Buffalo Bills when they fell to 0-1. And after the first 10 weeks of the season, the Rams find themselves well under that 500 mark at 3-6. Here's Coach McVay after the game.
There's no doubt about it, and we got to be able to continue to, have some resolve about ourselves and then have some better, execution. And then when there's opportunities to be able to make plays, we got to be able to do that. And there are chances to be able to do it. By no means am I not saying that there's not better positions that they how to make it better, how to improve, how do we play better, more complementary football, and whatever that means in terms of the results, we just got to be able to have a better product out there, start to see some improvement, and that's the challenging thing is there really hasn't been examples of that occurring, and so got to be able to look at some of the things that we're doing process-wise. I got to be able to look at myself in the mirror and figure out, what are those things, because I feel very responsible for us being in this position. I'm never going to run away from the responsibility, that I share with our team, our players, our coaches to be right here. But, there's some things that I know we can do to be able to get better, and I refuse to think anything else other than that. But I also want to see some of those things start to come to life and bear some fruit, and we got to be able to do that. And it's not one fix, but there's a lot of different things that we have to be able to do better, but challenging, no doubt about it.
This defense has been proud of holding opponents to field goals. Today, some touchdowns, and particularly when they went up to 24, that sequence, where was the breakdown? What did you see?
I'd have to go back and look at it. There was a lot of different things that you're just trying to manage in those situations. So that particular instance, I can't talk about that right now.
You've had so much success. What is it like just for you personally to go through this kind of thing? How are you holding up?
I'm doing good. It's humble. These are lessons where, I've talked about it, and my mindset remains the same. For whatever reason, you're being tested, you're being stretched in ways that you haven't been stretched before, but it's easy to be able to sit up there and talk about, the mental toughness, the resilience when things are going well, but, this is where you're truly being tested, and how do you look inward? But, I am interested in trying to help figure out some of these solutions so that we can play better football, and this is all of us together, but there are some execution elements. There's certainly some things schematically that we're trying to be able to figure out, none of which is anything but an excuse, but I'm going to be just fine, and we're going to keep swinging, and I'm going to try to do the best I can to pour into these guys, get them to play to the best of their abilities week in and week out. Same thing with coaches, and that's all you can do.
Last one, guys. You seem to be a little bit more comfortable on the run and maybe in screen scenarios. What did you see out of it?
Yeah, I thought, those are some of the things that when you're trying to accentuate a guy's skill sets, being able to move the spot, different things like that, and certain, where you have legitimate run pass options up at your disposal, or where those things end up being a little bit more effective for you as opposed to some of those longer situations. But I thought there were some bright spots in that regard for sure.
That's Sean McVay after a 27-17 loss to the Arizona Cardinals. And obviously he mentioned they got 8 games left, Kirk. They're going to start with New Orleans next Sunday. Kickoff coming up at 10 o'clock. Let's talk a little bit about what we might see in that one when we come back on the Coors Light postgame show on 710 ESPN.
Hey, Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got to get the new ESPNLA app. In fact, let's go down to the locker room and get a little help.
What's up, Rams fans? This is Matthew Stafford. React to the Rams on the new ESPNLA app.
This is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen to all your Rams talk on the ESPNLA app.
You are just one tap away from Rams All Access. Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play.
710 ESPN is giving you a chance to win $1 million.
$1 Million Mondays.
$1 Million Mondays. Listen every Monday during football season to Travis and Sliwa, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. All you have to do is make a super prediction.
And you can win $1 million.
And you can score tickets to a game at SoFi for just playing on $1 Million Mondays.
$1 Million Mondays.
710 ESPN.
So Week 10, Kirk, did not end with a Rams win. They lose 27-17 to the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals 4-6, Rams 3-6. Week 11 will put the Rams on the road for their only early start of the year. It's their only 10 a.m. kickoff that they're going to have all season long. Going up against the Saints. The Saints are 3-7, so the Rams actually have a half-game better record than their opponent next week. But you look at the NFC standings right now. Obviously, 16 teams in the NFC. The Rams are the 13th best team in the NFC. The Saints are the 15th best. Carolina, the Saints, and the Bears are the only 3 teams in the NFC right now with the worst record.
Carolina, Saints, and the Bears.
Yep.
That's crazy.
All other 3-win teams as well. They just happen to have 7 losses.
So you're saying Jared Goff has mathematically a better record than the Rams because you're tied with the Rams, but he has a better conference record.
The Detroit Lions are 3-6, and they win the tiebreaker over Los Angeles based on the best win percentage inside the conference. So the Detroit Lions are 12 in the NFC. The Rams are 13.
Yeah, look at Jared Goff.
Yeah, right. I don't know if he's flexing too hard on that one.
He ain't flexing, but he's doing enough.
He got to win today. That's for sure. He did beat the Bears today. So, going into next week against the New Orleans Saints, obviously you're going to get Andy Dalton. You're going to get a little Taysom Hill. You're going to get a little Alvin Kamara. You're going to get a Saints team that is also struggling the way that the Rams are, and this kind of fits the bill for everybody the Rams are going to play over the final 8 weeks, with the exception of the Kansas City Chiefs. And you know what? I guess we got to change the tune on Seattle right there. But they're going to have a chance to win some of these games. The problem is none of these games are games that the Rams are going to be easily favored. These are games that could go either way, but they're going to have to play a lot better than they have so far.
Yeah, they're going to play a lot better. And look, they're going into a hostile environment. New Orleans is still a tough place to play, especially a team that's backed up. They see what's going on in their own division with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. They don't have the best record, but they feel like, hey, we've had some injuries. But we still got some players and some key pieces. And, look, they've been without Michael Thomas. He'll be done for the year. Jarvis Landry hopefully will be back from injury. So they hoping to lick some of their wounds and play some of their best football now. Who's going to play quarterback? Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton. Yep. You mentioned already they'll get some Taysom Hill. But they've had success against the Rams. Really, the Rams, the only time winning that was the NFC Championship game that put them in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. It's been a tough place to play for the Rams over the years, especially in the Sean McVay era.
Obviously, until you are officially eliminated, the goal is always to be into the playoffs. They be competing for the playoffs. But with 8 games remaining and seeing what's left on the Rams' schedule, what is a realistic outcome over those final 8 games? Is 4-4 a realistic outcome? Is it 3-5? Could they get on the right side and win 5 or 6 of the remaining 8, despite the fact that we haven't seen them play good football really all season long?
Wow. Final 8 games. What can the Rams do? Wow, that's a tough one. That is difficult.
You got the Chargers, you got the Raiders, you got the Broncos in there.
Seahawks twice, Broncos.
Seahawks twice, Kansas City, Green Bay on a Monday night, who got a big win today against Dallas, so maybe they're starting to turn the corner.
I would say 5-3 is a good landing spot, but 5-3 still keeps them under 500.
Yo, yeah, 5-3 all of a sudden. That's an 8-9 season. Sean McVay's never been under 500 on the season, but Kirk, look, 5-3 would be wonderful, and I think you'd take it right now and you see what happens along the rest of the way. The fear that I think a lot of Rams fans have is that could it be 2-6? Could it be 1-7? Could it be one of those situations where, because you do have the Raiders, you have the Broncos, both of those games are here at SoFi Stadium.
Correct.
But again, it's a little bit like the Lakers. There are no games where you say, oh, they're going to get that one for sure. There is no such for sure game on the schedule left.
Wow, and the biggest winner of them all right now is the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Who have the Rams' first-round pick.
Right.
In the Matthew Stafford deal.
It could be a very high
pick. It could be a very high pick for the Matthew Stafford deal, and right now it looks good. Look, I'll go back and say it again. The Rams went all in last year, and they won a Super Bowl. They mortgaged their future, and they got the ring. They'll never take that away from them, regardless of the history of the NFL. The Rams were the champions. It comes with a price. And are you willing to go through the hard times of what the price has entailed for this season? That's what it's really all about. I get it. I understand it. Would I do it all over again? Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Because you're going to have these moments.
No,
you know what I mean? And I think some people forget about these moments and say, oh, see, look at the Rams. Look, I would love to be in this situation because I'm coming off of a championship, and I know I lost, but I'm not saying that the season's over, but, man, I know that fire in Sean McVay is burning.
Being 3-6 is lousy, and nobody
Yes.
likes it, and everybody feels like it's never going to turn around. But less than a year ago, we were in this place celebrating an NFC championship game,
Correct.
celebrating a Super Bowl win, and everything that goes along with it. I just think that the part that's so surprising is not that the bill comes due, because it always does, but that it came due as quickly as it did, that it came due the very next season, even though Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, all of the big-name guys along the way, you get Bobby Wagner, you had Allen Robinson, it felt like maybe you could push that bill being due down the road for at least another season or two. That it came here as quickly as it did, I think that's what's catching people by surprise.
It is. It's catching a lot because you just unexpected things that you hope wouldn't have this result, but the results, this is a results-based business. And I think you go into an offseason, and for the Rams, you sit back and say they didn't really have to retool. They didn't have to do this and do that. They're going to have to do a lot of soul searching. And you mentioned they still got 8 games left.
They're
that's
halfway
a
point.
ton of games.
Yeah.
Like in a 16-game season, they're only halfway. And I know we got 18 weeks, 17 games, but you got a lot of football left.
Yeah.
A lot of football.
You got a lot of football left, and a lot of guys are going to have to play in football games that may or may not have a ton of meaning in them, depending on how these next couple of weeks go. It all starts next week in New Orleans. It is a 10 a.m. kickoff, which means Kirk and I will get you started at 8 a.m. next Sunday for the Buffalo Wild Wings countdown to kickoff. And then, of course, immediately after the game, we will be doing it all over again. That, of course, would be the Coors Light postgame show. The Rams lose to the Cardinals 27-17 at SoFi Stadium. They are 3-6 on the season, just 1-3 in the NFC West. And we're crossing our fingers and waiting to hear what the injury update is on Cooper Kupp's ankle. It did not look good towards the end of that game. For Kirk Morrison, I'm Travis Rogers. This has been the Coors Light postgame show on 710 ESPN.
Hey, Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got to get the new ESPNLA app.